Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And, yeah, that was a great hour with them. So,
yes.
And now we have more special guests joining us in just a minute, but first we're going to cover a few in the news stories. In Psychology Today, there was a quite intensive article about sort of the history of autism and the battle to define autism.
Yeah, I mean, words matter, right? I think we can all say that. And the words that have surrounded autism, there continues to be an endless battle. I mean, even that we have people in our community who feel very strongly that they would like to be referred to as being autistic,
right,
or an autistic. And then we have people in the community who are like, I am not autistic. I'm a person who has an autism spectrum disorder,
right,
or a diagnosis. And even the word disorder, we get, people are like, why does, is it always a disorder? And why do we have to define it that way? And then you'll see people who are not as well versed in the topic, and they'll call it a disease.
Yes.
And then everybody gets mad. And so I do think that words matter, and trends around words matter, because it amounts to funding for things and public perception and those kinds of things. I don't know that there's an answer to it. And of course, we have this whole controversy that swirls around our words too. That, there's the whole campaign to end the use of the R word that is, I'm going to say it on the show, but people do not. I have a reaction, don't you, when you hear the word retarded?
Yes, definitely.
Like, we all have this emotional reaction and go, let's not be using that word in conjunction with people. It's not user friendly anymore because of all the connotations. That word it has other meanings, and yet we want to wipe it from the language because it's so volatile. So, but now, if you say recovery with autism, used to be if you said cure, people would pull out the pitchforks. But now if you say recovery, and people are like, that's not appropriate. That's not an appropriate. And it's worse even than just the R word recovery. The concept of it, people are like, don't talk about that. That is impossible.
Right.
Nobody ever gets to the point where they don't have the disorder. And I'm like, well, we can talk about a lot of things, but that happens. People get to the point where they have the disorder, and then they gain skills, and some people get to the point where they no longer have a disorder. That doesn't mean that that they don't have autism anymore, but it's not disabling.
Yes.
That happens.
Yes, it does.
And I want to talk about that to let people know that it happens, but I don't know what word to use without offending people.
Right.
But anyway, so this is in Psychology Today.
Interesting article. It kind of goes through the history of defining it and redefining it.
And how, there are all these, the word epidemic.
Yeah.
That's another one that sets people off.
Because that refers to as a disease.
Exactly, because the definition of epidemic says disease. So, but other people are like, well, then what is the word to describe the increase? And then we have people who fight and say it's not increasing, that these people,
are just being better diagnosed.
Right, by the thousands.
Right.
When they were crossing the Delaware, that apparently Washington had about, 2% of the people in his boat were apparently on the spectrum, but we didn't have a word for it then. I don't know. But anyway, what interests me is that we have already been able to phenotype at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. They haven't published yet, but they've already been able to phenotype, I believe it's 7 now, distinct types of autism that are clusters that have the same, this, when you're out someplace and you meet somebody, I'll meet somebody and I'll go, oh my gosh, this young man is just like Wyatt. Or I meet somebody else and I go, oh, this is somebody who's like Jem. Or, oh, this is like somebody, a friend of ours' child. And you see that there are similarities of their types of autism. So I'm looking forward to the day when we put the word autism aside and that we come up with new names and redefine the whole thing, and it's phenotyped. That's what I'm looking forward to. And I want to be a part of the naming, because I want to name it all positive stuff.
Okay, that sounds good.
I keep saying, let's name it Red 42. I currently participate in the Red 42 group. Anyway.
Another story about Amazon removing books promoting autism cures and vaccine information.
Yeah.
And Facebook has also announced it's cracking down on the spread of vaccine misinformation.
Yeah. And at the, I don't know whether it's at the request or at the suggestion, but it's somehow related back to the CDC. So I don't know whether the CDC has said, hey, why are you putting this out there because it's misinformation? And I don't think either one of us would presume to say that there isn't misinformation out there, right? But I'm just wondering, are they doing this with all kinds of books? Like if somebody writes a book about, sewing, are they going to make them prove that it actually the sewing technique works, or they're going to pull that from Amazon too? Or is this just targeted towards this particular subject?
It seems like it's just targeted to this particular subject. And it'll be interesting to see what books they pick as being...
Well, they've already removed books. It's just a very interesting time that we live in, and I believe that knowledge is power. And the internet is a very interesting place where people apparently take information. This is what we're told, is that people take information and they consume it, and they're not smart enough to look and see if it's true. Who are those people? Because I don't know those people. Do you ever just read one thing and make up your mind, Nancy?
No, I don't.
And how many people do you know that do that?
Very few.
Yeah, I'm always worried about the dumbing down of all groups. But in particular, it's always very frustrating to me when I see people post things and say, well, those lemmings that just, listen to Wakefield. And I'm like, who are they talking about? Or lemmings that listen to Jenny McCarthy, or like, who is that exactly that they're referring to? It kind of scares me a little bit, because I didn't crawl out from underneath a rock. I read, and it feels like censorship to me. Like if you can't get a book on a certain topic, why?
Yeah, especially if it's a book that mentions that a certain subset of children might be affected by vaccines. Does that mean that book's going to be taken off Amazon?
And even if you can prove that it's false, what if I want to read that because I'm writing a paper about that, right? Like, but I'm not allowed to get it. And I guess, Amazon is saying, well, find it other places. It just feels weird to me.
It does feel weird. I agree.
Feels very, very weird. Feels very, what are we going to do next? Burn these books? That's what it feels like to me. Makes my butt cheeks a little tight. That's what I'm saying. That's all. Okay, but here's an interesting article about pesticides, because you know how I feel about pesticides.
Yes.
I'm not about the pesticide thing. So there's a new study that's out that shows early pesticide exposure has at least a correlation with an increased risk of autism.
Before birth and during the first year of life has been linked to, it's the largest epidemiological study to date on the connection. I think there have been others. We've heard this before.
Yes. Starting in 2011, which was the year that we started this show, the first study came out that showed that at least there was a correlation between the amount of pesticides in a child's urine and their perceived lack of attention, lack of ability to pay attention to something, ADH symptoms. And that the more pesticides in a child's urine, it was directly related to how high their behaviors were that were about lack of attention and focus. And the recommendation then was, let's look into this further.
Right.
And people have. But this is a very big study. So listen to this. What they did was they took a highly sprayed agricultural area in California, and they saw that children were 10 to 16% more likely to develop autism and 30% more likely to develop severe autism that impacted their intellectual ability because they lived within a certain area. It goes on in this study, which you Google exposure and to pesticides and autism today, and you'll find it because it just came out. And you will see that if it's before birth and in that first year that they were looking at, and the rates are crazy higher. I think that, I don't know whether I highlighted it here. There's one that I think it's like 30% more likely, 30% more likely to develop severe autism.
Yeah.
That was what I just said. So what does this tell us? That, there's something going on there, and that we need to limit exposure in the time that a mother, before she gets pregnant, while she's pregnant, and we need to limit the exposure to small children. They were just looking at the year before birth and the first year after birth. But I mean, if it has this big of an impact, what's it doing to a 2-year-old?
I know, right.
And you got to look at all exposure to pesticides because it's everywhere. It's in mattresses. It's in sheets.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on a tear lately, only buying organic sheets, organic cotton, and yes, I know before everybody writes in that
It's expensive.
Well, actually, it's not. If you go to the right places and find the right sheets, it's not that wildly expensive, but you have to look around. But a lot of those places, like the discount places like TJ Maxx and Home Goods and places like that, you have to hunt, but you can find them, and they're not that expensive. And they're softer, I have to say. I know people will say, well, what's the guarantee? How organic are they? Well, the one thing we know is that it's, very likely significantly better than what you would have gotten if they weren't organic. I'm not saying that they have no pesticide on them, but every bit that you can move the dial, do the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, don't do those. And if you live in a place that is highly agricultural, it may be time to look at not being there for a certain period of time. Look at the studies, and look at this study. We took this from EcoWatch, but it's...
It was reported in BMJ.
Yeah.
Is that the British Medical Journal?
Yes, and Health Day reported it. There was another study that looked at exposure of 11 pesticides specifically that have been linked to intellectual impairment in animals and smaller human populations. And they looked at very specific pesticides. I know I've given my talk here before about, for me in 2011 when that first study came out, before that I was like, organic, schmorganic, whatever.
Right.
And then I looked at that study and I was like, I don't get it, because if this were true, they would tell us, right?
Right.
But then I looked at what the pesticide does and got a better understanding of it, and I went, okay,
exactly.
Everything changes here. And we went largely organic. We do the Clean 15 and we don't do the Dirty Dozen.
Okay. Where can you find a list of the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen?
So EW.org, that's Environmental Working Group. I think it's EW, it might be EWG. Environmentalworkinggroup.org. They always, but if you just Google Dirty Dozen, Clean 15, a lot of websites pick it up. And it changes every year. And you need to look at the list every year because they actually test a wide sample of those fruits and vegetables to see. A good rule of thumb is if it's something that has a thin skin, then you want to get it organic.
Okay.
If it's something that has a peel, a lot of times it's okay, although there are exceptions to that rule. There was one year when you absolutely were advised not to do grapefruit other than organic because there'd been some blight and they had dumped a bunch of pesticides on all the grapefruit, especially red grapefruit. I don't think that's true now. But check out what the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 and then adhere to it because it really does make a difference. And more restaurants are going organic, which is a lovely thing.
Yes.
All right, we've got big guests. We're going to start with Gretta Berghammer and Tyann. And I don't have Tyann's last name, but Tyann is a parent whose children are involved with the Sturgis Youth Theater. So we're going to be talking about theater and why it's particularly good for autism, and this makes me all feel warm and fuzzy.
Right.
So.
And later we'll have Fullerton Cares.
Yes.
Here, so
fabulous Larry Hauser and his 2 fabulous kids. Really excited about that.
Okay. So stay with us.
Welcome back, everyone. We've been having a wonderful, quick confab with our next 2 guests. We're going to try not to slaughter their names, but we've got Gretta Berghammer and Tyann Rouw. Did I get even close?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Welcome to the show, ladies. And Greta, tell us what type of theater we're talking about and the benefits for youth with autism with theater. Tell us the
I
type of
would
theater
love
you're
to
on.
talk about autism and theater.
Okay, great.
What I think caught your eye is a new piece that I'm working on, which is a type of theater called immersion theater. And what immersion theater does is it creates a very specific environment and then gives the audience the opportunity to interact not only with the environment, but with the actors as well. So the audience does not assume the traditional role of sitting and watching. You know, in this case, it's they come in, they're offered a costume piece, and then they're given an opportunity to actually participate in the production itself. And the one I'm working on right now is in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing.
Oh,
Wow.
So the young
interesting.
people who come to the theater will be traveling to the moon with the 15 actors that I've been working with.
I want to go to the
Excellent.
moon with you guys.
I'd love for you to go to the moon with us. We really would. You know, theater is, in my opinion, evolving, is becoming, I think, a really beautiful, supportive way of including young people on the autism spectrum in social settings with others. Yes, they get this fabulous artistic and theatrical opportunity, but for me, it's being in an environment that requires humans to interact with each other in some capacity, and that can be verbal or that can be nonverbal. And because theater relies on modeling, because it is so highly visual, because it has such potential for being interactive and engaging, because this immersive theater does not require that you stay contained in restrictive setting, I think it really supports the gifts and skills and talents and behaviors of youth with autism.
Well, amen to that. You're preaching to the choir here, and I will say that we had Dr. Kerry Magro on the show a week ago today. He's a young gentleman diagnosed at the age of, I think, 4, who just got his PhD. And when we asked him, you know, what do you think the secret sauce for your success is, Dr. Magro? And one of the first things that popped out of his mouth was,
Theater.
My mother took me and made me participate in theater, and it helped me immensely. So there you go.
Now, we've also got with us Tyann Rouw. And Tyann, you have 3 teenage sons, and you're a full-time mom and a part-time writer. And your twins, Isaac and Noah, were diagnosed with autism before their 2nd birthdays. And tell us about their involvement in theater.
Well, I have 3 boys, and 2 of them have been involved in theater quite a bit with Gretta. And we first met Gretta through a project that she did called the Spectrum Theater. And after they went to a couple of those sessions, Gretta said, you know what, I think they are ready to get involved in something a little bit more complicated. And so they were involved in what's called Sturgis Youth Theater, which is a 1-month-long summer production. And my kids were not really interested in doing it at all. And Gretta said, okay, here is a ticket to see Jack and the Beanstalk, which is what they performed that summer. My kids went, I went, we watched it. They loved the show. But when I said, hey, is this something that you want to do? They said, no, absolutely not. We don't want to do it. And Gretta said, don't worry, I've got a plan. And Gretta's kind of sneaky. So long story is that she recruited my boys to kind of help do some research for an upcoming summer production. She listened to their opinions. She had them check out books from the library. She took them to the coffee shop and had discussions with other peers. And she really listened to their opinions. And they became really invested in kind of the show and in the relationship with Gretta and other peers. And finally she said, okay, can I count on you to be in the next show, which at the time was Cinderella? And they said, yes, we'd love to. So they kind of were manipulated in a way to get to be there, but they have never looked back.
Well, good teaching always is manipulation, right? So that's okay when it's all for the good. But we should talk about the fact that you, in addition to being a writer, you have a podcast. Tell us about your podcast, Tyann.
The podcast is actually something that my husband and one of my sons does, and it's called Autism in the Wild. And Greta's actually been on the podcast twice, but it was kind of a brainchild of my husband and my son Noah, and they've been having a lot of fun with it.
Well, and so where can people go to listen to Autism in the Wild?
You can go to iTunes and check it out there, or really any other place where podcasts are available.
And you've got a blog. I was thinking that the blog and the podcast went together, but you've got a blog. What's your blog?
I do. It's called Turn Up the V.
And
As
what
in volume?
What is the V?
Right. Yeah, it actually stands for volume, but
Okay.
it also stands for Valium.
Oh, okay, great.
Wonderful.
We can relate to that.
So, with this new production that you're doing, what's the title of the show, Gretta?
The name of the show is called To Touch the Moon.
Ooh,
And
I
the
like
young
it.
people who are coming to see it, just 15 at a time, will come 3 different times to participate in 3 different episodes.
Wow.
In episode 1, they get a chance to practice what it's like to be an explorer in a new environment. In episode 2, we turn the clock back to 1969, and they're going to pretend to be astronauts in training. And they go through a series of experiences at Building 9 on the NASA campus. And then they come back a 3rd day and for episode 3, which is actually on the surface of the moon. And each episode lasts about 45 or 50 minutes.
And so how can people find out? This is happening in Iowa, in Cedar Falls, Iowa?
It is. It's happening in Cedar Falls, Iowa, on the campus at the University of Northern Iowa. If anyone listening or watching this is interested, they should reach out to me, as seating is very, very limited. Like I said, just 15 young people and then 15 adults who come with them to watch what's happening in each of these episodes. And I can be reached through email, which is Gretta, Gretta, and there's a dot, and then my long last name, Berghammer, Berghammer @uni.edu. They can also just do a Google search for the Sturgis Youth Theater, and they would be able to find me as well.
And then
Okay,
you're going to
great.
do a summer program again this year too?
I am doing a summer program again. That will involve about 50 young people. As is true of all of my work, it's completely inclusive. Of the 50 young people who will participate this summer, approximately 25% will be identified to me as individuals on the autism spectrum. And so all 50 of these young people will come together and help me do a production of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
Oh, great.
And is that like a month-long thing, or how long?
Yeah, it's a 4-week. Yeah, it's a 4-week camp, and young people are with me anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, 5 days a week. And it's a great experience for, like I said, a group of young people to come together and work across age and grade levels, because it's open to anyone who is ages 9 and up.
That's amazing. It makes my pulse race. I'm sure that there are other parents too that hear this and go, oh, I'd love to have my child involved.
Yeah, Tyann, what advice would you give to a parent who might be hesitant about having their child involved with theater?
Well, I would tell the parent, I was a little bit hesitant too, but your kids will really surprise you with what they can do in theater. And Gretta in particular has really no expectations about what the kids cannot do. She just assumes everyone is competent and can do anything. I would say, give it a try. Theater is inclusive, it's welcoming, and also, discuss any needs or support that you feel that your student might need, and figure out a plan to make those kinds of things happen and just go for it.
It's a really wonderful program. And Greta, you've been doing this for how long?
9 years now.
And you've got to have a wealth of knowledge. What would you say, very concisely, in as short as amount of time as you can, what have you learned in 9 years that we should all know?
I've learned 3 things. I've learned, number one, that parents are the best expert for their young person, and that it is critical that I listen to what they tell me about their young person and make as many offers as possible that I can think of to help support their young person. If I can't think of it, then it's my job to invent it. It's me doing what I can to support them. The second thing is that, and I know I may anger some people when I say this, but I truly believe it from the bottom of my heart. Best practices for working with young people on the autism spectrum is just good practice. I don't know a single young person who doesn't benefit from visual prompts, who doesn't benefit from peer mentoring, who doesn't benefit from something being modeled or explained in ways that include language or non-language. And the third one is that, theater helps all young people, but especially those on the spectrum, begin to trust their imagination and the beauty of playing pretend. And, once you can get comfortable with that, so many other ways of thinking just begin to open up to you, just from the way that you visualize reading a book to the way that you begin to think about solving problems.
Well, we love what you're doing.
Love it.
And is there a website that people can go to if they want to know more?
Yes, they can go to the Sturgis Youth Theater website. They can also find myself, Tyann, and the Sturgis Youth Theater on Facebook as well.
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, ladies. This is incredible. If I get to Iowa, I'm going to be looking you up because this makes me happy.
Yes, it does.
Or better yet, invite us to LA to do a performance.
Okay, that
all
sounds
right.
good too.
I'm going to go
All right.
find a bank to rob because I would love to have you do that. That would be amazing.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And good
Take
luck
care.
this summer. All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Oh, that excites me.
I know your theater is your thing.
I get all itchy and go,
Yep.
I want to do theater with our kids on our spectrum, and I'm trying to work that out so that I can. But time has to permit.
Time.
Yes, but that's how much fun and how much all of those kids will learn. That's
Exactly.
just really incredible. All right, we've got to take a break
Fullerton Cares.
because we have to get a bunch of people into the studio. We've got Fullerton Cares in the house. Larry Hauser, Boyd, and Madelynn. Dabs is going to be with us as well. They're going to be amazing. You're going to love it. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us.
Back, yes.
We have a house full right now.
We do a full studio.
With a bunch of Hausers that are here. If you watch the show, you know that there's a yearly event that I absolutely love. It's the Fullerton Cares Mardi Gras for Autism. And joining us right now, we have Larry Hauser, who is the mastermind behind Fullerton Cares and this wonderful event. And we have Madelynn Dabs, who's here with it. And we have, for the first time in the studio, well, it's Madelynn's first time too, but this is Boyd Hauser, and we're so excited to have all of you here with us.
Boyd is Larry's son.
Yep.
Yes.
So, and Madelynn, you're a volunteer for Mardi Gras
Yeah.
and are very involved in it, right?
Yeah, I'm his stepdaughter too.
Oh, okay.
So it's one
Right.
big happy family.
Yeah, it's one big happy
Well,
family.
Larry, tell us a little bit more about Pillars of Fullerton Cares and how it was started and all about it.
It was started shortly after Boyd. We found out that Boyd had autism, and we were. I was I signed up for one of the Autism Speaks walk, and was really kind of just unsure of really what to do, and just in the beginning where you're all confused and stuff like that. And so I put it out there on Facebook, and one of my, I own a restaurant, okay, 2,
An amazing restaurant.
What's the name of your restaurant?
Yeah.
It's Bourbon Street Bar and Grill,
Okay.
and also the Bowery got craft beer and pizza.
Okay.
But he saw my Facebook post, and he invited me over to his place to throw a comedy show to raise money. So
Okay.
from that point, I realized that, and a ton of people showed up to support the cause, and from that point, I realized that we had something in our area, and that's how Fullerton Cares started. But we do a ton of stuff. I mean, it ranges from building sensory gardens, building sensory rooms, giving the teachers inside the Fullerton School District money before they start the year. We have work programs that we partner with the Fullerton School District at our restaurants 5 days a week for 2 hours every week. We've hired 3 kids from that program, so they're getting real paychecks, and wow, just we also hold an amazing event every year, which is what we're mainly known for, and that's the Mardi Gras for Autism.
And when you said we knew that we had something special, I think you hit the nail on the head, because there is something very special about Fullerton. That this group of people, parents and entrepreneurs, come together, business people. And I always say, I come to Mardi Gras for Autism every year because there is no event that's like it. It is an event that benefits autism and raises awareness, but it is the only event that you go to that the entire community comes and is there and is supporting. And I feel that that's a lot because of you. You make me want to weep. You are such an awesome
Thank you.
autism dad and community member. But we have these 2 guests that we also have to talk to.
Right.
So Boyd, we're excited that you're here. Can you tell us, first of all, how old you are?
First, I'm 11 years old.
Didn't
And
you
then-
just have a birthday?
Yep, I had a birthday. Yep.
And I
What was
know
that?
that you had, because I saw on Facebook, you had an amazing party. What was the theme of that party?
The event was the Super Mario.
Oh,
Super
cool.
Mario.
Mario.
And did you even have face painting?
Face painting. Yes, I did. Actually,
What did you get put on your face?
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
And there was the Mario.
Yeah.
Like the Mario was there. And we
And
played
Your cake was amazing.
Yep, it was good. We had there's mushroom cupcakes.
Mushroom cupcakes?
Yep,
I've never heard of that.
A lot of cupcakes you need to do.
That's
And
amazing.
there's 3 games we played.
Yeah.
The shell game, like if it makes a coin sound, you're out.
So you're a little into the Mario Brothers, is what you're telling us.
Pretty much a lot.
You're also into, you do martial arts, don't you?
Yeah. Teeny Titans, Angry Birds, like sports, and lots of things.
Well,
That's cool.
you are amazing. And are you excited about the Mardi Gras for Autism?
Pretty much I am.
What do you like to do at the Mardi Gras for Autism?
I would like to do play games, watch like something pretty cool, like when you eat at Bowery, and let me think about some questions.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I got some.
Yeah.
The dance studio. There's a dance studio I like to watch.
Oh, neat.
Absolutely. I like to watch the dance studio too.
And I was part of the dance group, but then I quitted.
Okay. Well, you have a pretty full plate with all the other things that
You
you're
do.
doing.
You have so many extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
But do you have any idea how proud everybody is of you? We see you all the time. Like, I saw you at the comedy show and you came out. You did such a good job.
Yeah, and I got the award for Child of the Year,
You
2018.
You're amazing.
That's great.
You're an
boy.
amazing
I'm
woman.
so proud to be like this.
And
I bet you are.
And here is Madelynn, who's sitting next to you, and we're proud of Madelynn too. So Madelynn, tell us a little bit about what you really like about Fullerton Cares and about the Mardi Gras for Autism.
Well, every Mardi Gras for Autism, I get up at like 5 a.m. with my mom, and we go and we help set up, and we're there till the end of the event. And I just really love to see all the kids that have disabilities and all the kids that don't interact, and kind of this event really brings the whole community together.
Yeah.
And I really like to see that, especially when him and his friends come. I like to see them having fun and just everyone coming together. I think it's really cool.
So tell us a little bit about you and where you go to school, because you go to school someplace pretty amazing.
Yeah, I go to OSHA, Orange County School of Arts in Santa Ana.
And are you, that's your thing, the arts? Are you, what's your focus?
I'm in a conservatory called Integrated Arts, so I do a little bit of everything. So singing, acting, dancing, writing, drawing.
Triple threat.
And
Nancy.
you've written 2 monologues.
Yes.
Tell us about those.
Yeah, this past weekend I got to perform and have one of my monologues performed at a fundraiser for a theater in where I live. And one of my monologues was about a boy with autism, and the character was a girl who was his neighbor, who was kind of intrigued by him, and it was supposed to be in the later times where people with autism weren't really understood, and it was just about how she was very kind of envious of how peaceful and calm because he would swing on a swing, and that's how she would kind of see him every day, and she was kind of envious, and she talked about how he was bullied and stuff, and it was really awesome to be able to do that.
That's quite an accomplishment. You're a very accomplished young lady. You're also into photography, huh?
Yeah, I like to go on nature walks with him and my family and just take photos. I like to take pictures of his eyes, especially because they're gorgeous. I
said
was
that.
talking about that earlier.
Yeah. But you do have beautiful eyes, Boyd. It's true.
So back to Mardi Gras. When is it?
It's a couple weeks here. It's April 6th.
April 6th.
And it is, you've been there quite a number of times. It's just it's just an amazing event.
It's the best. And for anybody who's in the area, Fullerton is Disneyland adjacent. Let's say that. I mean, it really is. That's what it is. It's right near Disneyland in California. How long? Like an 8-minute drive from Fullerton.
If that,
to
we're right on the
Disneyland.
same street as Disneyland.
It's crazy how close that it is. So if you're going to Disneyland, definitely you want to come by and make sure you come to the Bourbon Street Bar and Grill, and the newer place that I haven't been to yet.
Oh, the Bowery.
The Bowery with the pizza, which Boyd says is super fun, and I believe Boyd. I'm with Boyd.
He loves pizza.
Make sure that and the food is amazing because we've been to Bourbon Street before, and the food is to die for. It's so good. But if you are going to be in the area on April 6th, it is the event to go to. If you want to be lifted up and feel the hope of what a community can look like when everybody gets on the same page, we all talk about how we want to get to autism awareness. And I don't think anybody really knows what that looks like and what it would be like. But I think Fullerton has tipped the scale, and you guys are at awareness, and now you're just about supporting.
Right. It's the event is just it's exceeded everything that we even could imagine. You know, in the beginning, we just wanted to help with the stigma of autism and get more people aware. But you know, we have so many colleges in the city. We have so many clubs and organizations and fellow entrepreneurs that want to help and be a part of it. I remember when we took just a little part of the parking lot. Now we take the whole train station parking lot. And as soon as I put out the call for vendors, I'm like literally sold out right away. It's just and they're vendors that I actually I look at, and I make sure that we're not getting any imposters who just want to see if there's a market for autism inside their business. That's not what I do. Or those aren't the vendors that you're going to find there. You're going to find people who actually put a big effort into autism into their practice. So our families are going to get there, and they're going to find the best, most directed resources that they possibly can find.
And if you've been looking for something to take, like, you know, maybe you have a neighbor, and we had a question earlier about what do I do for my in-laws that don't, you know, participate and don't get autism. This is the event to take them to. Take your neighbor and all their kids and say, hey, we're going to this event. It's the Mardi Gras for autism. Let's all go. Everyone will have a good time. There's something for everyone, for adults and for kids, for teenagers. There's something for everyone. There's amazing food. You have the biggest group of volunteers, and maybe this is a question for Madelynn, because I see you with your friends always working that, everybody gets beads that's there. It is Mardi Gras, but in the nicest, most PG-rated, G-rated way, Mardi Gras, right? But it's a big group of people, right? What are some of the things that the volunteers do, Madelynn?
Well, like I said before, a big group wakes up really early and we set up all the booths and the stage and hang up all the banners and decorations. There's a whole group of performers that come. There's people, my Girl Scout troop volunteers sometimes to help in the sensory garden, and we help play with the kids and hand out beads like you were saying. There's a whole cleanup crew. There's people managing all the bounce houses and all the rides. There's we usually get like football teams or high school teams that help and set up because they can lift stuff, and we got Disney volunteers. The whole community helps out.
It really is something for everybody, whether they're on the spectrum or not.
Absolutely, right? And the sensory garden is super fun for all kids.
The not part is really the main focus of that event. The people who are not on the spectrum. Yeah. Because it is an event that attracts those families that aren't affected by autism, and that's really what we want, because we want to show them what these other families, or what autism looks like, and that really is the special part of the event.
So tell us again, when is it? How can people find out about it? Because we're almost out of time here. I'm losing my voice.
Yes, you are. So what date again? It's
Saturday, April 6th, and you can find more about it on our website, www.fullertoncares.com. It's right there front and center. There's tons of videos. You can even Google the event. You can Google Fullerton Cares, and you'll see videos and pictures all over the internet about the event.
And there are so many things to do, getting face paint, and there are rides even, and all kinds of people to meet. Autism-live will be there, I will be there, wouldn't miss it, because it's, honestly, it's one of the events that really recharges my battery for everything for the year, because I go, look, we can do anything after I go to the Mardi Gras for Autism. So there are people that are in costume and in stilts and people wearing crowns. It's the Mardi Gras, folks. It's truly amazing. Boyd, are you excited about it?
I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited.
I love it.
Good for you, sweetie.
And I know that we're all super excited. So I want to thank you guys for being first timers on Autism Live. You guys did a great job. Super proud of you. And we didn't get to mention that your mom is the fabulous Summer Dabs. Yep. And everybody who watches Autism Live knows who Summer is, because you know the video that we showed a lot, What is Autism? And we have, Summer is the one with the beautiful red hair. Your mother has the most beautiful hair, but you're catching up to her. You've got gorgeous hair too. But in any case, she will be there. You're going to be there, of course. Are you going to wear a king crown?
I got a new one that I ordered, so
Good for you.
There's a new one coming out.
All right, we'll have to see that. What about you, Boyd? Do you wear a king crown?
Well, I don't really have a crown, but maybe good. Maybe buy one if I want to.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
It could be.
I could buy one.
Maybe a Mario crown.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Master of Teeny Titans and Mario.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So in any case, we will look forward, and we'll be talking about this more next week, because we love you, we love your family, and we love this event. We love your community. I keep talking to my kid about he should go to college in Fullerton because Mama wants to retire to Fullerton. In any case, so we thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for coming today.
I guess we're out of time.
We're out of time.
But thank you for being here. We are back next week, but next week starts the new we're
hour
here,
a day.
Tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, you're here tomorrow.
Talk about it tomorrow. Next week we start the new Monday through Friday that Autism Live will be here Monday through Friday.
Right.
So stay tuned tomorrow. Big show tomorrow, and we'll do the big reveal about that schedule. Until then, give your kiddos a hug for me.
And give yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.